Welcome. This is going to be a breakdown of what I think Phase 3 BiS is going to look like. As you can see on the screen, I have my current Phase 3 BiS setup that I'm going for. This will be the BiS for the phase. Whether we get prioed for this and whatnot because of the heroic tokens and how they drop is a different thing, but I will go over that later on the video. So, as you can see, everything I've got in here, currently I have 4 pieces of the tier 9 heroic tier, and still going for armor pen soft cap, for the reason being that we still am using a armor pen trinket. So that still means I'm going for around the 649 to 650 armor pen. Just quick rundown on all of this. So I will be using as my off piece leggings of Cunning Deception, leg guards of Cunning Deception from Yogg hard mode, 25 man. Those will still be available to do next phase. And if you have them now, great. Perfect. This is just my suggestion of what is BiS. But everything that I've seen for this next phase, everything's so close, it's within 1%. Go with what you can get your hands on. Alright, so with this, let's break down the 4 pieces that we're using. So we're using helm, shoulders, chest, and gloves. Those I think are going to be the best pieces to use and provide the most optimal DPS gains. Neck, we're going with the Charge of Eridar. It's an upgraded version of Pendulum of Infinity. If you have Pendulum, this is your next best thing. There's not much else that really compares to it. You could go for the armor pen ones, but if you're looking on this list, then there really isn't any other option. It's Pendulum and then Charge, in my opinion. Cloaks. This cloak is going to be highly contested with the rest of your raid, and it'll be extremely hard to get because it requires 0 wipes on the bosses for TOGC. In my opinion, if you can get prio on it, good for you. I will still be going for it, but ultimately I would settle with the 10-man version. 10-man version is a little less stats, but it's so close in value that it's just going to be easier to get because you have to fight less than 9 other people instead of however many melee you have that want the armor pen cloak. Wrists, I'm going with armbands of Dark Determination. These are a drop from Anub'arak. The Fluxing Energy Coils are Phase 2 BiS currently. And those ones, they're really solid options as far as what you get from it. It just lacks a little bit of value from the amount of attack power you get, the crit that you get. But if you're low on armor pen, stick with Flexing Energy Coils, in my opinion. The weapon I am going for is Twins Pact. Now, there's been a debate about the difference between Twins Pact and Hellion Glaive for Horde. It's, I forget the staff and polearm names for Alliance, but they're both, from what I've simmed, within 20 DPS. You take whichever one you can get. If Twins Pact drops, great, perfect. You'll stick with that. I will stick with that. Some people will go to Hellions Glaive. If Hellions Glaive drops for you, great. They're both really solid options. So you really can't go wrong with a weapon in this next phase. I can say, if you have Dreambinder from this phase, from phase 2, stick with Dreambinder until you can get one of those heroic drops, because Dreambinder is going to be better than the normal versions of those two weapons. Okay, moving on. Belts. We upgrade our belt from Soul Devouring Cinch to Belt of the Pitless Killer. The gain isn't that big, but you more use this item for your hit. You can still use Soul Devouring Cinch. It still is a really good option. I personally think that Pitless Killer will be slightly better in this scenario just because of the amount of hit that you gain, and as you can see, we're kind of lacking a little bit of hit, including with gems. But that's okay. Leggings of Cunning Deception will be, in my opinion, the BiS that I'm going to be running with. You can run the heroic legs if you are lacking in hit, or even the 245 legs. They're both really good options. But in my opinion, again, leg guards of Cunning Deception are the best item that you can get for this next phase. Boots. We're going to go with the Ice Walker treads. Any of even the normal or the heroic version of either boot option, so Acid Maw or Ice Walker, they're both really good options when you're considering you're upgrading it from Footpads of the Silence. Pick up the next boot you get, don't complain. They're all really good options. I would prefer Ice Walker treads in this scenario so I can hit my armor pen soft cap. But if you're not struggling with armor pen, then go with the hit option. Next, move on to rings. Band of Callous Aggression. This ring is going to be, in my opinion, the best ring once you can hit your armor pen caps without either Band of Lights or Planestalker Band. If you don't have Band of Lights, Planestalker Band is a really good option for the hit and the armor pen that you get. It is less hit, but it is more armor pen and slightly more attack power. So Planestalker Band, not a bad option for an upgrade. Next, we'll go on to trinkets. We're still going to be using Runestone from Phase 2. It is a really, really strong trinket, so I will be still using it. As far as our second trinket goes, Death's Choice Heroic is our best option. There are debates from what I've gotten into with, would you take the normal version? I wouldn't take the normal version personally, just because Dark Matter's really good, and so is Comet's Trail. Comet's Trail and Dark Matter are both really good, solid trinkets that I would stick with either one of those until I was up for Death's Choice. Death's Choice is better than both of those options, but not by much. Alright, and then the idol that we are going for is the one that we're going to buy, is Idol of Mutilation. This will be my first purchase. Hands down, my first purchase. The amount of agi that you get consistently from this, because you don't ever run into the point where you won't have this up. It's got such a high proc rate and low cooldown, low internal cooldown. It's 8-second internal cooldown. So that's half of the time that it takes for it to fall off, which means that you have a high chance of refreshing it in those 8 seconds because you're either going to mangle or you're going to shred. Out of those 8 seconds, you're probably doing it like 75% of the time. So, idle mutilation is going to be my first purchase. Alright, gemming. As you can kind of see, some of the gems swap. We were going for an agi build, but now we're going more strength because of the amount of crit that we're gaining. There's been a lot of talk of what actually is our crit soft cap. And for this phase, because of the 4-piece bonus, our soft cap is technically 71-72%. And you will basically get crits every single time. So, any yellow slots, I have pretty much thrown in strength and crit, just to get the socket bonus for the extra crit and attack power you get from the agi. And blue sockets we're not worried about again. But as you can see, I'm gemming expertise in this set just so I can hit my soft cap. It is a DPS increase to go for the soft cap for your expertise. Even though I'm slightly over, it is still better DPS. And then more armor pen. Pretty much all of the gems that we're going for will be armor pen, except for, I think, 2. One. Oh, it's just one. Just one gem. Nope, 2. There's the second one. Knew there was 2. But like I said, again, any yellow sockets, we're going to be going for the socket bonus if it's a yellow-red. So strength crit in our yellow sockets. And then pants is where I'm choosing to throw in my tier. Just because as soon as I replace my weapon, it's going to go straight into there and I'm never going to have to worry about it again until ICC. It just, to me, makes the most sense. It gives me 8 agi bonus, which is the biggest bonus that you can get in comparison to, say, if I throw it in here, I'm only getting 6 agi. If I throw it in here, again, 6 agi. So I'm throwing it in my legs just so that I can keep that socket bonus going. So again, in Ice Walker Treads, yellow socket, strength, and crit. Blue sockets, we're just throwing in straight armor pen or straight agi. Alright, enchants are pretty self-explanatory. This is a JC engineering build, so I am going to be using engineering enchants and the JC gems. It is the profession I am currently on my main Feral Druid. Okay, and armor pen. We're slightly below the armor pen cap by 2 points, but it's not that big of a deal just because we'd rather be under than over, and it is a DPS increase to be under. Expertise, you're slightly over expertise cap like I said, but it's better than being far under from not having these 2 gems. Alright. Next, we'll show you. So this is something I've been working on for quite some time. I have done a lot of sims. I usually do, I want to say about 1 million a week, just because I sim as much as I can to try and help other people, and I still suggest sims to tell everybody else, okay, this is what you're actually going to go for. So this is the phase 3 set. And this is where we are currently simming. It's plus or minus, because sometimes it's above 12,300, sometimes it's a little bit lower. For a basic saying, I just say that this phase will be at like 1200 or 12,000 DPS. This is not with the nerf currently that is on the PTR, which is taking off our Glyph of Rip. With the Glyph of Rip taken off, it's not that big of a loss. It'll get higher and higher as we go through the phases, but it's going to be around a 1 to 2% DPS loss to pick Rip over Savage Roar. And that is going to be a completely different thing. But the talent build stays the same. Our empty slot, we're taking the Glyph of Omen of Clarity. And we'll be doing about 12k DPS. Now, I have put a lot of thought into this, but this is our Phase 2 BiS. So with Phase 2 BiS, what are your options when you are going to upgrade your items? If you have every single 252 item for those 3 off pieces, so your shoulder pads of the Intruder, Embrace of the Gladiator, and leg guards of Cunning Deception, if you have those 3 pieces, the next best option that you have is going to be no tier 9. Now that means replacing your 2-piece tier 8 for off pieces, but this is also if you have the heroic pieces available to you. Just because you will be using these off pieces, it's going to be a different rotation than you're used to, so you could technically still use your tier 8 helm and gloves in the meantime. But just to show us perspective as what I have set up here, it is a DPS gain to wear no tier pieces and to wear the 10-man cloak. Like I said, I will probably end up getting the 10-man cloak over getting the 25-man cloak just because it's less contested. So we've got a 780 to 800 DPS gain with wearing all off pieces. Cool, great. If you can get these pieces, that's amazing. It's not always going to be the same for everybody else. Sometimes you'll not get them, sometimes you'll be stuck with the normal mode tokens, which drop from both 10 heroic and 25 heroic, so you have a chance of getting those as well. Well, let's just say you get your 4 pieces that you need to turn in to get your 245 tier 9. I have a sim for that. So, in comparison to no tier 9 whatsoever, we go in and we pick up the 4 pieces of tier 9. This tier will take you roughly about 4 weeks to obtain if you do the heroic daily every day. And it also just depends on if they decide to change the way that badges work for this next phase. Otherwise, it will take you 4 weeks. And this is just based off of what I'm assuming for what has happened in the past, aka what they did to phase 2 to make it so that you can get up to 8 of the heroic badges, or of that current tier's badges, a day. Now 8 is kind of degen hour kind of thing, so for 5 it'll still take you 4 weeks to get it. that's doing the daily every single day. So as you can see, it is a DPS increase just to where the 4-piece for the tier 9, the non-heroic versions. It's still a DPS increase. I put in Hellion's Glaive here because I wanted to try and see if I can get a little bit closer to that melee crit cap, which I think is 71 to 72% for this phase because of our tier set. And still keeping in mind that we have the armor pen soft cap, our expertise soft cap, and really, really close to our melee hit. Also for this set, I am using Comet's Trail. Just because I don't expect to have Death's Choice or Death's Verdict by the time I get the 4-piece. I'm setting this as far as the expectations. If you can get it beforehand, just to throw it out there, it is a slight DPS increase. It's just not, in my opinion, not that big. So I would pass on the trinket. The things that I'm going for personally is I will go for the tokens. That's what I'm pushing for. It's because the tokens, in comparison to your full phase 3 BiS, it's about another 500 DPS. There are a lot of people that are saying it's 485. I think 485 is a perfect number. I do like to round up to make it seem a lot better, but in most scenarios, it's going to be anywhere from 400 to 500, as you can see. So 485. So I'll be pushing myself to get the heroic tier tokens. Now, the difference that I had between the no heroic tier and the heroic tier is also the cloak. The 10-man cloak, just to show, is, from what I've seen, only about 10 DPS difference. Cloak of Serrated Blades. 20 to 50 DPS difference. It's not that big, but in bigger iterations of the sim, it seems a lot bigger. It could be better on other classes. We're not doing 100% physical damage because bleeds ignore armor in the first place. So it is better served on a class that can do 100% physical damage. Now, that doesn't put us out of the runnings for it. It's still a DPS increase. But, in my opinion, I'm going to pass on the cloak and go for the heroic tier. Because the heroic tier is going to be a bigger DPS increase for the face. And we're still going to go back and do TOGC. Even if I don't get the 25-man cloak, I've done some research and sims for ICC, but it's not that big of a deal. In my opinion, it's not that big of a deal. I'd rather get the tier, get that done and over with. So yeah, that is my explanation of what I am going for phase 3. It was a little bit of a long video, a little bit longer than I expected, but if you like this content, feel free to subscribe and drop a like to this video and give it a thumbs up so I can put more stuff out for you. And I plan on doing more stuff in the future, so feel free to look out for this channel. Thanks.